In the far reaches of space, where stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across an endless black canvas, humanity had spread its influence far beyond Earth. Colonies thrived on distant planets, and exploration vessels roamed uncharted territories. One such ship was called the Starlight Voyager, a sleek vessel manned by a small but capable crew. Among them was Captain Liam Carter, a man known for his steady hand and sharp mind. With him was Dr. Rachel Monroe, a scientist fascinated by alien life, and Greg Owens, the ship's cautious engineer who always seemed to worry about worst-case scenarios. The crew had been sent on a mission to explore a desolate moon orbiting a dying star. The moon was barren, covered in jagged rocks and deep craters, but scans suggested something unusual lay beneath its surface. After days of searching, they finally discovered it, an ancient artifact buried under layers of dust and stone. It was a smooth, metallic sphere etched with strange symbols that glowed faintly when touched. The moment they uncovered it, the air around them felt different, charged with an energy no one could explain. Rachel was the first to approach it, her curiosity overpowering any sense of caution. She ran her fingers over the glowing symbols, marveling at their intricate design. "This isn't just some relic," she said, her voice filled with awe. "It's alive." Before anyone could respond, the artifact began to hum softly, vibrating as if waking from a long slumber. A beam of light shot upward, illuminating the dark sky. And then, without warning, a section of the sphere opened. From within emerged a small creature, no bigger than a large dog. Its body shimmered with colors that shifted and danced, as though it were made of liquid light. It had no visible eyes, yet it seemed to look directly at them. Tentatively, it stepped forward, its movements graceful and deliberate. Rachel knelt down, holding out her hand. To everyone's surprise, the creature approached her, brushing against her palm with what felt like a feather-light touch. "What is it?" Greg asked, his voice tinged with both wonder and fear. He kept his distance, gripping a diagnostic tool tightly in his hand. "I don't know," Rachel admitted, her eyes wide with excitement. "But it's incredible. Look at how it reacts to us." The creature tilted its head, almost as if listening to her words. She smiled and whispered, "I'll call you Zix." Liam stepped closer, studying the creature carefully. "We need to take it back to Earth. Imagine what we could learn from this thing." Greg frowned. "Are you sure that's wise? We have no idea what it's capable of. What if it's dangerous?" Rachel shook her head. "It hasn't shown any signs of aggression. If anything, it seems curious." She reached out again, and Zix responded by leaning into her touch, emitting a soft, melodic sound. Despite Greg's protests, the decision was made to bring Zix aboard the ship. As they prepared to leave the moon, none of them realized the implications of their choice. They thought they had found something extraordinary, a discovery that would make history. But what they didn't know was that Zix was far more than just a harmless creature. It carried secrets older than the stars themselves, secrets that would soon ripple through the galaxy and challenge everything humanity believed about life, power, and responsibility. As the Starlight Voyager departed, Zix settled quietly in a containment area designed for biological samples. Rachel watched it closely, her mind racing with questions. Little did she know, their journey was only beginning, and the decisions they made next would shape the fate of countless worlds. When the Starlight Voyager returned to Earth, news of Zix spread faster than anyone could have imagined. The shimmering creature captivated the public, and images of it appeared everywhere, on news channels, social media, and even billboards. Scientists were eager to study it, while corporations saw an opportunity to make money. Within weeks, a frenzy began. Expeditions were launched across the galaxy to find more creatures like Zix, and soon enough they did. These creatures came in all shapes and sizes. Some looked like floating orbs of light, others resembled giant insects with glowing wings, and a few were massive beasts with armored hides. Each one was unique, but they shared one thing in common. They radiated power. Traders captured them using advanced traps and sold them to the highest bidders. Wealthy elites bought these creatures as exotic pets, flaunting them at parties and parades. It became a status symbol to own one, no matter how dangerous or unpredictable they might be. Emily Dawson, a young woman from a wealthy family, was among those swept up in the craze. She attended galas where people showed off their new pets, each trying to outdo the other. At one such event, she met a trader who offered her a sleek, serpentine creature named Vrax. Its body glowed faintly in the dark, and its movements were hypnotic. Emily was instantly smitten. "It's perfect," she said, handing over a hefty sum without hesitation. At first, Vrax seemed docile, curling up beside Emily like a loyal companion. But as days passed, its behavior changed. It grew restless when confined to its enclosure, thrashing against the walls with surprising strength. Emily tried to calm it, feeding it rare delicacies and playing soothing music, but nothing worked. One evening, during a lavish party at her mansion, Vrax snapped. When Emily tried to show it off to her guests, it lashed out, breaking free of its restraints. Chaos erupted as the creature slithered through the crowd, knocking over furniture and sending people screaming for the exits. By the time security managed to intervene, Vrax had escaped into the city. Reports flooded in about sightings, a glowing snake-like figure darting through alleyways and scaling buildings. Panic gripped the population, and authorities scrambled to track it down. Meanwhile, Emily sat alone in her ruined home, shaken and ashamed. For the first time, she realized the consequences of treating such a powerful being as nothing more than a trophy. Back at the research facility, Dr. Rachel Monroe watched the unfolding chaos with growing unease. She had warned the Galactic Council about the dangers of keeping these creatures as pets, but her warnings had been ignored. Now, incidents like Emily's were becoming alarmingly common. Pets turned violent, escapes multiplied, and entire neighborhoods were evacuated when creatures went rogue. Rachel knew this was only the beginning. One day, while observing Zix in its containment area, she noticed something strange. The creature emitted soft pulses of light, almost like distress signals. It moved restlessly, pressing itself against the glass walls. Rachel wondered if it could sense what was happening to its kind. Was it trying to communicate? She spent hours watching it, jotting down notes and recording its patterns. Slowly, she began to suspect that these creatures weren't just intelligent. They were connected. Her suspicions deepened when she reviewed footage of escaped creatures. Despite being separated by vast distances, many displayed similar behaviors at the same time, as though responding to some unseen call. Rachel realized that humanity had made a grave mistake. These beings weren't meant to be owned or controlled. They were part of something much larger, something ancient and incomprehensible. And if humans didn't act quickly, the consequences would be catastrophic. As reports of accidents and attacks continued to pour in, Rachel felt a heavy weight settle on her shoulders. She knew she had to do something. But what? Her voice had already been dismissed once. Would anyone listen now? Dr. Rachel Monroe spent every waking moment studying Zix, determined to understand the creature and its mysterious behavior. Over time, she began to notice patterns in the way it moved, the colors it emitted, and the sounds it made. At first, these seemed random, but as Rachel observed more closely, she realized they carried meaning. Zix wasn't just reacting to its surroundings, it was communicating. One evening, after hours of careful observation, Rachel noticed something remarkable. Whenever she approached Zix's containment area with a calm demeanor, it responded by glowing softly and emitting a low hum. But when she was stressed or upset, its colors shifted to sharp, erratic flashes. It was as though Zix could sense her emotions and respond accordingly. Intrigued, Rachel started experimenting. She spoke gently to the creature, played music, and even brought plants into the room to create a soothing environment. To her amazement, Zix reacted positively every time, almost like it was forming a bond with her. Through trial and error, Rachel discovered that Zix communicated not just through light and sound, but also through subtle vibrations in the air. These vibrations resonated with her own thoughts, giving her fleeting impressions, images of vast, star-filled skies and strange, alien landscapes. Though fragmented and unclear, these glimpses hinted at a consciousness far beyond what humans understood. Zix wasn't merely intelligent, it was profoundly aware, capable of emotions and connections that defied explanation. Meanwhile, Jack Harper, a former soldier turned bounty hunter, found himself drawn into the chaos surrounding the creatures. His job was simple: track down escaped pets and return them to their owners, or eliminate them if necessary. Jack had seen his share of dangerous assignments, but nothing prepared him for the mission that changed everything. Deep in the wilderness of a remote planet, he cornered a massive, wolf-like creature named Kale. Its fur shimmered with an iridescent glow, and its eyes burned with an intensity that sent chills down his spine. Jack raised his weapon, ready to fire, but hesitated. Something about Kale felt different. The creature didn't attack or flee. Instead, it stared at him, its gaze piercing yet strangely calm. For reasons he couldn't explain, Jack lowered his gun. When Kale let out a low growl, Jack flinched, but instead of lunging, the creature limped toward him, revealing a deep wound on its side. Against his better judgment, Jack decided to help. He patched up Kale's injury using supplies from his pack, expecting the creature to run off once it regained strength. But Kale stayed close, watching him with unwavering attention. Over the next few days, the two formed an unlikely partnership. Kale proved fiercely loyal, saving Jack's life multiple times during encounters with hostile wildlife and rival hunters. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, challenging everything Jack thought he knew about trust and survival. Back on Earth, Rachel continued her work, piecing together fragments of Zix's language. One night, as she sat alone in the lab, Zix emitted a series of urgent pulses. The colors shifted rapidly, and the vibrations grew stronger than ever before. Rachel felt a sudden wave of dread wash over her. Though she couldn't fully understand the message, one thing was clear: danger was coming. Rachel knew she had to act quickly. She reached out to the Galactic Council again, pleading for immediate action to stop the exploitation of these creatures. Her warnings were met with skepticism, but she refused to give up. Humanity had crossed a line, and the consequences would soon become impossible to ignore. As Zix's warnings grew more frequent, Rachel realized that time was running out, not just for her, but for the entire galaxy. Rachel stood before the Galactic Council, her hands trembling slightly as she held up a holographic display of Zix's recent behaviors. The room was filled with officials in sharp uniforms and business attire, their faces blank or skeptical. She had spent weeks preparing her presentation, gathering data and recordings to prove her point. But as she spoke, she could see their eyes glazing over, their minds already made up. "These creatures are not toys," Rachel said, her voice firm despite the tension in the air. "They're intelligent beings with their own emotions and connections. If we keep treating them like objects, we're going to face consequences far worse than we can imagine." One council member, a stern woman named Senator Laura Hayes, leaned forward. "Dr. Monroe, you've presented interesting observations, but there's no concrete evidence that these creatures pose any real threat. People want them. Businesses are thriving because of them. And we can't just shut down an entire industry based on speculation." Rachel clenched her fists but forced herself to stay calm. "It's not speculation. Look at the incidents. Escaped pets causing destruction, attacks on civilians, entire neighborhoods evacuated. These aren't isolated events. They're warnings. And if we don't act now, it will only get worse." Her words fell on deaf ears. The council dismissed her concerns, citing economic growth and public demand as reasons to continue the trade. Frustrated and defeated, Rachel left the meeting, knowing she had failed. But deep down, she also knew she couldn't give up. Something bigger was coming, and humanity wasn't ready for it. Back in her lab, Rachel focused all her energy on understanding Zix's urgent signals. The creature's behavior had grown increasingly erratic, its colors flashing wildly and its hums turning into sharp, piercing tones. It seemed agitated, almost fearful. One night, as Rachel sat beside Zix's containment area, the creature emitted a pulse so strong it nearly knocked her off her chair. A vivid image flashed in her mind. A massive, shadowy figure moving through space, radiating power and fury. Rachel gasped, clutching her head. She didn't know what the vision meant, but she was certain of one thing. Whatever was coming, it was connected to Zix and the other creatures. Desperate for answers, she reached out to anyone who might listen. Her search led her to Jack Harper, a name she'd heard whispered among researchers studying rogue creatures. Though reluctant at first, Jack agreed to meet her after hearing about Zix's behavior. When Jack arrived at the facility, he brought Kale with him. The wolf-like creature immediately caught Zix's attention. The two locked eyes, and for a moment, the air crackled with energy. Zix emitted a soft glow, and Kale responded with a low rumble. It was as if they were speaking to each other in a language no human could understand. They recognize each other, Rachel said, watching the exchange in awe. These creatures aren't just individuals. They're part of something greater. Jack nodded slowly. I've seen signs of this before. Kale reacts to things I can't explain, like he's sensing something far away. Rachel explained her theory, that the creatures shared a collective consciousness, a network spanning across the galaxy. When mistreated or separated from their kind, they sent distress signals that resonated with others. And now, those signals had awakened something ancient and powerful. As they talked, alarms blared outside. News feeds lit up with reports of a colossal entity approaching Earth's orbit. Cameras captured footage of a towering serpentine being covered in shimmering scales. Its presence disrupted satellites and communication systems, plunging cities into chaos. The being, later identified as Soreth, moved with purpose, scanning the planet below. Rachel felt a chill run down her spine. "This is what Zix has been warning us about," she whispered. "Soreth isn't here to destroy. It's here to reclaim." Jack glanced at Kale, then back at Rachel. "If that's true, we need to figure out how to stop it, or at least make it understand we're not the enemy." Rachel nodded, determination hardening her expression. Time was running out, and the fate of humanity rested on their ability to bridge the gap between species. Rachel, Jack, and Kale worked tirelessly to decipher Zix's signals. The small creature had become more active than ever, its glowing patterns shifting rapidly, as if trying to convey a message. Rachel scribbled notes furiously, her mind racing to piece together the fragments of information. She realized that Zix wasn't just warning them about Soreth, it was showing her what Soreth wanted. "Soreth isn't here to destroy," Rachel explained to Jack one night as they pored over data in the lab. "It's searching for something, or someone." Jack frowned. What could it possibly be looking for? "The creatures," Rachel said, pointing to a series of symbols she decoded from Zix's vibrations. "It's children. All those creatures we've captured, sold, and locked away. They belong to Soreth." Jack let out a low whistle. "So this thing is like a parent." "In a way, yes," Rachel replied. "And if we don't give its children back, it might tear the planet apart trying to find them." The enormity of the situation weighed heavily on both of them. They knew they couldn't fight Soreth. It was too powerful. Their only hope was to free the captured creatures and reunite them with their kind. But doing so would mean breaking into highly guarded facilities controlled by corporations and governments who wouldn't hesitate to kill anyone standing in their way. "We'll need help," Jack said after a long pause. "This isn't a job for two people." Rachel agreed. Together, they reached out to trusted allies, scientists, activists, and even former bounty hunters who had grown disillusioned with the trade of alien creatures. Each person brought unique skills to the table, and soon they had formed a small but determined team. Among them was Elena Torres, a tech expert skilled at hacking security systems, and Marcus Lee, a pilot capable of flying under radar without being detected. Their first target was a massive facility on the outskirts of Earth's largest city. It housed hundreds of creatures in high-tech containment units, monitored around the clock by armed guards. Breaking in would be risky, but they had no choice. The plan was simple yet dangerous. Infiltrate the building, disable the security systems, release the creatures, and escape before reinforcements arrived. On the night of the mission, tension hung thick in the air. Jack and Kale led the group, using stealth and cunning to slip past patrols. Elena worked her magic on the facility's mainframe, disabling cameras and unlocking doors. Meanwhile, Rachel stayed close to Zix, hoping its connection to the other creatures would guide them. As they moved deeper into the facility, the sounds of restless creatures echoed through the halls. Some growled, others hissed, and a few emitted haunting cries that sent shivers down their spines. When they finally reached the holding area, Rachel felt her heart sink. Rows upon rows of glass pods lined the walls, each containing a frightened creature staring out with wide, unblinking eyes. "This is monstrous," Rachel whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. She pressed her hand against one of the pods, and the creature inside responded by pressing its own body against the glass. It was as if it understood she was there to help. Elena got to work overriding the locks while Marcus kept watch. One by one, the pods opened, and the creatures emerged cautiously, sniffing the air and looking around. At first, they seemed confused, but then Zix let out a soft hum. Instantly, the creatures turned toward it, their bodies glowing faintly in response. It was as if Zix was calling them home. But their success came at a cost. Alarms blared suddenly, red lights flashing throughout the facility. Guards stormed in, weapons drawn. Chaos erupted as the team scrambled to protect themselves and the creatures. Jack fought valiantly alongside Kale, taking down enemies with precision and speed. Marcus used smoke grenades to create cover, allowing the group to retreat. Just as they reached the exit, Jack made a split-second decision. He stayed behind to hold off the guards while the others escaped. "Go," he shouted, firing his weapon to distract the enemy. Kale hesitated, torn between staying with Jack and following Rachel. "Kale, go," Jack ordered firmly. Reluctantly, the wolf-like creature obeyed, bounding after the rest of the group. Outside, Rachel watched as explosions lit up the horizon. Her heart ached, knowing Jack might not make it out alive. But there was no time to dwell on loss. They still had work to do and lives to save. As the team fled the facility with the freed creatures, Rachel couldn't shake the image of Jack staying behind. She wanted to go back for him, but Kale nudged her gently, urging her forward. The wolf-like creature's loyalty to Jack was clear, yet it understood that their mission wasn't over. They still had to reunite the creatures with Toreth, and hope it would be enough to stop the destruction. The group moved quickly, heading toward a hidden rendezvous point where Marcus had parked their ship. Along the way, they encountered more chaos. News of the breakout had spread, and panic gripped the city. People ran through the streets, desperate to escape the glowing forms of alien creatures now roaming free. Some of the creatures seemed disoriented, while others moved with purpose, as if drawn by an invisible force. Rachel kept Zix close, using its connection to guide the other creatures. "We need to get them to Xoreth," she told Elena, who nodded grimly. "But first, we need to survive long enough to make it happen." When they finally reached the ship, Marcus wasted no time firing up the engines. The vessel lifted off just as military forces closed in, their spotlights sweeping across the ground below. From the cockpit, Marcus navigated carefully, avoiding detection as they soared into the night sky. Behind them, explosions lit up the horizon. Jack sacrificed buying them precious time. Hours later, they arrived at a remote location where Xoreth's massive form loomed in the distance, the elder being radiated power, its shimmering scales reflecting the light of nearby stars. It moved slowly, scanning the area with an almost regal grace. When the ship landed, Rachel stepped out cautiously, holding Zix in her arms. The small creature emitted a soft hum, and instantly, Soreth turned its gaze toward them. Kale growled low, standing protectively beside Rachel. But Soreth didn't attack. Instead, it lowered its massive head, studying them curiously. The freed creatures gathered around, their glowing bodies pulsing in unison. Rachel felt a wave of emotions wash over her, relief, fear, and something else she couldn't quite name. It was as if Soreth was thanking them. "We're giving you back your children," Rachel said softly, though she knew Soreth couldn't understand her words. "Please, forgive us." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the creatures began to rise into the air, floating toward Soreth like leaves caught in a gentle breeze. They merged with its glowing form, becoming part of it. As this happened, Soreth's energy shifted. It softened, calming the storm that had raged across the planet. But the peace came at a cost. Rachel looked back toward Earth, knowing the damage humanity had caused could never fully be undone. Cities lay in ruins, and countless lives had been lost. Yet there was also hope. Humanity had been given a second chance, a chance to learn from its mistakes. Just then, a faint sound caught Rachel's attention. She turned to see Jack limping toward them, his clothes torn and his face streaked with dirt. Kale bounded to him, licking his face excitedly. Rachel rushed to his side, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I thought I'd lost you," she whispered. "You can't get rid of me that easily," Jack replied with a weak smile. He glanced at Soreth, now surrounded by swirling lights as the last of its children returned. "Did it work?" Rachel nodded. "It did." Soreth's leaving. As they watched, the colossal being ascended into the sky, its glow fading into the stars. For the first time in days, silence fell over the land. The battle was over, but the scars remained. Rachel looked at Jack, then at the team who had risked everything to help her. Together, they had faced the impossible and made a difference. Now it was up to humanity to ensure such a disaster never happened again. In the weeks that followed, Earth began to heal. The scars left by Soreth's arrival were deep, but humanity slowly started to rebuild. Governments imposed strict laws banning the capture and ownership of alien creatures, and public opinion shifted dramatically. What had once been seen as exotic pets were now viewed with respect and caution. Rachel became a voice for change, speaking out about the importance of understanding and coexisting with other species. Her efforts weren't easy. Many still resisted her ideas, clinging to the belief that humans were meant to dominate the galaxy. But Rachel persisted, sharing her experiences and the lessons she'd learned from Zix. She spoke of the bond she'd formed with the creature, how it had shown her that intelligence and emotion weren't limited to humans. Her words resonated with some, planting seeds of hope for a better future. Jack, too, found a new purpose. After recovering from his injuries, he decided to leave his life as a bounty hunter behind. With Kale by his side, he began working with Rachel to track down remaining facilities where creatures were still being held captive. It was dangerous work, but Jack felt a sense of fulfillment he'd never known before. For the first time in years, he had something worth fighting for. The team stayed close, bound together by their shared experience. Alina used her skills to expose corrupt corporations involved in the pet trade, while Marcus flew them wherever they needed to go. Each member brought something unique to the group, and together, they made a difference, one small step at a time. As for Zix, it remained with Rachel, though its behavior changed after reuniting with Soreth. The creature seemed calmer, almost serene. It no longer emitted urgent signals or displayed signs of distress. Instead, it stayed close to Rachel, humming softly whenever she worked late into the night. She often wondered if it missed its kind, but she also believed it had chosen to stay, to help bridge the gap between humans and the galaxy's many mysteries. One evening, as Rachel stood on a hill overlooking the city, Zix perched beside her. The lights below twinkled like stars, and for a moment, She allowed herself to feel hopeful. Humanity had made mistakes, terrible ones, but it wasn't too late to learn. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but every journey began with a single step. Jack joined her, sitting quietly as Cal curled up at his feet. "Do you think we've done enough?" he asked, breaking the silence. Rachel shook her head. "No, but we've started something. That's what matters." Jack smiled faintly. "Yeah, and maybe, just maybe, people will listen this time." They sat there for a while, watching the horizon. Somewhere far away, Soreth drifted through space, reunited with its children. Though gone, its presence lingered, a reminder of the power of connection and the consequences of greed. Rachel glanced at Zix, then at Jack and Cale. In their own way, they had all been changed by what happened. They had faced fear, loss, and uncertainty, and come out stronger on the other side. Together, they had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, compassion and understanding could prevail. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and dangers beyond imagination. But as Rachel looked up at the stars, she knew one thing for certain: humanity wasn't alone. And perhaps with time and effort, it could find its place among the cosmos, not as conquerors, but as equals.